Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are back once again to bring you a weekly recap, this time of Monday Night Raw, which took place on January 26th at Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. We kick off Monday Night Raw with what could be the very last Raw appearance of AJ Styles. At least that's one possible scenario ahead of this weekend's match at Royal Rumble against Gunther, where if AJ loses, he must retire. AJ has other plans, however, as he says he has a list of people he wants to wrestle before he retires and that he wants to win another world championship. Among other things, AJ assures us that Saturday will not be his last match, as Gunther is simply not phenomenal. Then joins CM Punk. Punk says that he's worried about AJ and that if he doesn't win, then they won't be able to have a match, and as he's one of those people that both of them actually seem to have each other on a list of people that they want to face. Their solution, much to the joy of the Toronto crowd, is tonight we have a main event, AJ Styles and CM Punk, where Punk then decides to put his belt on the line because he is a fighting champ. I thought this was an incredible start to Monday Night Raw and a great promo between the two guys here, and getting a match between AJ Styles and CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship. You can't really do much more than that in terms of a main event. So yeah, had me very much looking forward to that. Obviously, that was unannounced, so that was a surprise to everyone here. Getting into the first match of the evening, we have Raquel Rodriguez, Roxanne Perez, and Liv Morgan of the Judgment Day going up against the women's tag team champions Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, and the women's world champion Stephanie Vaquer. Continuing the momentum from Saturday night's main event, of course, this just adds Vaquer and Raquel to their respective teams. Now, this match isn't quite as good, but it still is a ton of fun. And the chemistry between the Judgment Day and Rio is absolutely next level. Wouldn't be mad if we continue to see that kind of rivalry down the road. On this night, though, Rhea hits the Riptide on Roxy to get the win for Rio and La Primera. A fantastic match here to kick things off on this episode of Raw. We then see the Visions, Bronson Reed, Logan Paul, Austin Theory, and Braun Breaker, of course, joined by Paul Heyman, and we see them headed down to the ring. Braun Breaker invited by Adam Pearce to discuss the suspension and such things. Paul Heyman introduces the Vision like only he can, and goes on to explain why we're all here in the first place. Basically, accusing Pearce of being a bad manager. Pearce then goes on to not only apologize to Breaker, but lift his suspension. Also goes on to inform him that he's in the Rumble. And not only that, he then tells the rest of the Division that they too are now in the Rumble. Not only that, Theory gets a chance at redemption against Rey Mysterio right now here on Raw. So, very interesting segment here. I did not think this would go down so easily. So one or two things kind of where my head's at was that kind of call that we saw Pearce accept. Heyman told him he better accept that. Very interested to see kind of who that was, I guess, because this didn't seem like this was going to go down that easily, considering the kind of past shenanigans that had happened. So clearly Heyman pulling some strings there. I guess scenario here is maybe Adam Pearce is now on the Vision payroll somehow. Something's not right here. Pearce rolled over way too easily, and something at least I personally am going to keep a pretty close eye on, because something doesn't quite add up there, and we see kind of more of this later on. We see a segment of the Vision, obviously now all in the Rumble, and we see Logan Paul state that the goal here is to get the Braun Breaker, the main guy of the Vision, to win the Rumble. We see kind of Paul Heyman in the background. He's kind of very secretively answering a call, going back and forth with whoever's on the other end of that call, which obviously all the members of the Vision, or at least that we know of, are in the room. So, something a little fishy there. So be curious to see how that one ends up. And as just mentioned, we then get the next match of the evening, which has Austin Theory of the Vision going up against Rey Mysterio. Between the commercial break and the nonstop action between the other members of the division and the other luchadors outside of the ring, this one didn't feel like it had much time to get started. Theory ends up getting the win with a stomp, but that's far from the end, as Dragon Lee, Penta, and Ray all get some finishers from the division for free. Once again, Raw seemingly kind of run by the division, at least not in the main event, but anytime the division kind of comes into play, especially when all members are present, very few teams kind of stand a chance, it seems. But now, especially when they have the Braun Breaker, X Factor, if you will. Before we get into the second half of Raw, we did have a backstage interview of Gunther by Michael Cole. Gunther basically says he's tired of these old-timers chasing moments. Those moments belong to Gunther, and after this weekend, just like he did with Goldberg and Cena, he's going to end AJ Styles' career. So short, sweet, effective. Just ahead of his match with AJ this weekend, I think Gunther is clearly focused and determined. And, KP and I have been talking about this quite a bit. And I think at first we didn't think there was a chance for this to be AJ's last match here at Royal Rumble. But, Gunther seems locked in. And, all these matches that AJ is getting, including the one tonight, I don't know. I was kind of second guessing ourselves here. So we'll wait and see, I guess, and talk about it a little more on the predictions video for the Royal Rumble, as well as the reactions, I guess, is when we'll really know at that point. But it's got us up in the fields for sure. But getting into the next match of the evening, we have the Creed brothers of American Made going up against Alpha Academy's Otis and Akira, and Rio and Bravo of Los Americanos going up against the New Day with Grayson Waller in a fatal four-way tag match to determine the number one contender for the World Tag Team Championship. The Creed brothers of the American Made and the Alpha Academy shine the brightest here, in my opinion. But in the end, believe it or not, it's actually Otis and Akira Tozawa who get the win here and are now your number one contenders to Jimmy and Jay's World Tag Team titles. Thought the match was decent enough. It felt like maybe it could have used some more time. But then Jay was obviously on the sidelines here, outside of the ring. No Jimmy here. But interesting that Jimmy's not there. It's kind of awkward for just Jay to be there. But regardless, an interesting decision here. I thought for Alpha Academy, to win here, and what feels like a Raw division, at least the tag division, was starting to pick up some momentum. I don't know. Maybe not the right call, at least in my eyes. But can't deny Otis has provided some entertainment over the years. But we'll wait and see, I guess, what they'll do with it. But I'm not quite sure about this one. We then get into the main event, which has the phenomenal AJ Styles going up against CM Punk for that World Heavyweight Championship. As to set off, set to kick off tonight's episode of Raw, that promo between the two, and then seeing kind of the payoff here. I thought this was a pretty good back and forth match, not quite to the levels of last week's main event in Belfast between Finn and Punk, but still a pretty good match nonetheless. I think a large part of the reason why I don't think this one is quite as good might be for sentimental reasons, as if this is the last match for AJ Styles on Raw. It is a bit of a sour note to end on. So as Punk is getting ready for a GTS, the challenger from last week and the just mentioned Finn Balor comes in, kicks Punk, and ends the match with the DQ or no finish, as he continues to take out his frustrations about earlier in the night when Pierce told him there was no more room for Finn in the Rumble. And so, takes these frustrations out on Punk and shows Finn standing tall to end the episode. So, such a high and such a disappointment there so quickly. Kind of leaves, if that is AJ Styles' last match, which this decision kind of makes me think it's not, but clearly there's evidence to support both. But clearly has our attention going into this weekend's episode or this week's showing of Monday Night Raw and this weekend's match between AJ Styles and Gunther. But overall, a decent episode of Raw. not a bad one, but pretty average, I think, in my opinion. Outside of the women's tag match and the main event, this episode felt a little light on quality contest. The men's tag was decent and a nice surprise, I guess, but feels a bit of a step backwards to have Alpha Academy winning that number one contender spot. Like I said earlier, kind of no disrespect to them, but just given where the Raw tag division has been, anyways, for them to win, just feels like maybe that's taking a step back. Jimmy's not even, can be seen. I know he has his own personal issues to deal with and personal matters at home, but, they just got the belts. So I don't know, a bit of a question mark there. And then obviously the ending there between AJ and CM Punk, it was going well until it wasn't. So I guess it'll all depend if that was AJ Styles' last Raw match. If it wasn't, maybe I'll come back here and maybe not critique it so hard. But for what it is and what I know, not the best episode. Not terrible, but I think give this one a 7. So like I said, not terrible, not quite to the levels of what we've gotten used to over the last month, basically since the new year, and kind of before that, Raw and SmackDown have been hitting on all cylinders, and this one just didn't quite hit those levels for me. But enough about us here at The Push. What did you think of this episode of Raw? Please let us know in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button as well, as that does help us out quite a bit. We'll continue to bring you the recaps. We have an NXT recap coming up soon, as well as that SmackDown recap as well. We also have the Royal Rumble, obviously, coming up this weekend, so we will be back for those prediction and reaction videos. So until next time, this has been The Push with Nick and KP. We'll see you soon. Take care.